just share my screen. Hopefully people can see that.
I can.
Cool. So hello, we're from Ubisoft. We're the tech anim team. So we're going to be talking to you mainly about tech art and what that involves, because it's still a bit of a mystery to the industry. But we are going to cover a little bit about applying for jobs and interviews and that kind of stuff as well. So we'll start with introductions. If Kristen, you want to kick off?
Yeah. Hi. I'm Kristen Griffin, and I've been in the industry for close to 20 years now. So it's been a while. It's been a great ride. Tech art is a wonderful career path, and you can see on the screen that my jobs.
So I'll go next. So I'm Liz. I've been in the industry about 6 years now, 5 of those at Ubisoft, and I've been a tech artist for just over a year. I keep forgetting how long that is. Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm actually not that freshly graduate. I finished university at 2019, and then I started working in mobile games in a company called GameBake. And since last year, I joined the Ubisoft, and I've been here for good 4 months. Joe?
Oh, you muted.
We can't hear you, Joe.
We can't hear you, Joe.
Are you double muted somehow?
Is that working?
Ah,
there we
go! Yeah, so I am pretty new. I started in August from uni. Yeah, and I'm on tech energy.
So we'll kick off with, what is tech art?
So I'll talk on this one. Tech art is a bit of everything. You have so many options to go with in tech art, and a lot of it's technical, but some of it needs an artistic eye, is really how it kind of goes in a lot of ways. So you have character rigging, that's adding the joints and bones to characters and also other inanimate objects. You have technical animation, which is basically lots of work with IK, node graphs, and making sure that the animation systems are working, but not necessarily actually doing animation. VFX, so there are sides to VFX, and depending on the company you're in, goes which way your VFX experience goes. But there's always very technical stuff to be done. Shaders, those often are on the technical art side, and you can either do them through code as a technical artist, or some companies on engine packages have shaders as node-based shaders. Procedural, a lot of times this is now Houdini, yay Houdini, but there are other methods of procedurals. However, those would tend to be more towards engineering and programming, because in order to get a procedure without Houdini, a lot of times it's scripting. Pipeline and programming. This is to make an artist's life better. You take something that they don't like and is very technical, and you try to make it better, and you make their processes better by taking some things that take 10 button steps, put them into one. Anytime you're like, I have to do this manually 10 times, you can think, I can make a script for that. And that's great. UI, obviously on the UI and UX side, there is implementation of that in a variety of ways. Some is through programs, some is through XML, some is through, I don't know, but UI is great. And performance and optimization. This one happens to be, about, how well does your asset perform? How can you optimize those assets and things to make it better and make your game run faster? We also tend to be firefighters, and an artist will come to us on a regular basis going, help me. Google Masters, because yes, oftentimes you don't necessarily instantly know everything, but Google's pretty smart. So you learn how to Google real well. Investigators, definitely digging into things. How is this working? Why is this working? What is this doing? All of those questions you investigate and you dig in and you find out why. Bug hunters, yes, bug comes. Bug, is that art? Is that programming? Where does this bug belong? Oftentimes it ends up with you as the first parting point because you kind of understand a wide variety. So yeah, and then pokers and prodders of things. I'm a fan of this. Basically, when you don't understand something, we tend to have that extra bit that goes, I really want to understand this. And you poke around at it and you prod at it until you understand it. So yeah, now as a translator, you kind of need to understand what the artists need, and you also need to understand what the programming technical side needs.
Yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Trying to get that
And
balance
it's fun.
of like, an artist is like, it needs to do this, and a programmer goes, explain that. And you're like, okay, this is what that means. And an artist will go, what does that mean? You're like, it does this. It's super fun. So within our little team here, we've actually got rigging and obviously a focus on animation, but also Joe pokes at VFX and shaders, and will soon be leaving us for that. So yeah, it covers a wide variety of things, and figuring that out can be super difficult, which leads us nicely onto how do I become a tech artist? So we're going to cover these 3 bullet points, and I believe we're starting with Alex.
Hello. Yeah, that's me. As you know, tech art is currently, specialty oriented. So as Liz mentioned, we are all from Tech Anim Group, which means that we are taking care of animation, rigging, well, not really animation, but supporting our animators and character artists. If you're trying to figure out where you want to go in tech art, it's good to ask some questions to yourself. So on scale of art to programming, where do you sit? So do you feel comfortable writing the code, or maybe not really? Maybe you're more comfortable with graph editors, stuff like that. What part of game development fascinates you the most? So are you really fascinated by shaders, VFX, animation, characters, maybe environment, procedural stuff? It needs to be something that really fascinates you, that you feel very good doing. So definitely try to spend some time figuring that out. What work can you lose yourself in for hours? So I am specializing in rigging. And that was, since I finished university, that was the thing that I really wanted to do the most. I think rigging is the best, and no one can convince me to think otherwise. I'm very passionate about it. But it wasn't always like that. When I started rigging, it was so confusing. I didn't know what I was doing. And I like it because I didn't know much about it, and it was so troublesome. And most times I was finding myself sitting at 3 a.m. in the morning, and trying to solve this issue. And although it was very hard, I enjoyed it the most because it was hard and very fascinating for me. So when you figure out what you want to do, it's good to have some general skills that we think all technical artists should have. So you should have like basic scripting skills, understand the language. That doesn't mean that you need to be a master of it. Just only means that you need to know how to structure a code, how to work with it, trying to understand the purpose of the code, because most of the time artists don't pay attention to it, and you will be the one who will have to understand it and help them with solving issues. So that doesn't mean that you need to be master of coding. You just need to have this basic understanding how the code is structured. Then you need to have basic understanding of performance and optimization. So it's something that is very required, especially if you're interested, we are working in games industry, so all the engines comes with some limitations. So you need to understand them and help artists build the artwork according to it. So we don't end up with, model that has million polys and engine can handle it. So it's very good that you have this understanding, and as well understanding pipelines and process, because you are this person who translates, who works together with developers and artists. You need to know what pipelines are used in both art and development of the game. So, you can streamline how it's the art is created and help artists create the best work possible. Thank you.
So to jump in before we move on to the next slide, obviously technical art was generally quite a generalist role. You were kind of expected to deal with nearly everything, and there are some, tech art does vary from company to company, but more frequently now I think it's becoming more specialized. So knowing where that area that you want to move into is great, but having that understanding of the general stuff is just, it's just super useful. I don't know, Kristen, Joe, do you want to jump in on anything before we move on?
No, I think y'all covered it great. Thank you.
Okie dokie.
Yeah,
In which case, it's Joe's turn.
Hello. Wait a minute.
I think.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So a little bit of this bounces off what Alex has already said. So just choosing like what games interest you and gearing your overall understanding and tech understanding of how those games sort of work that's always a good thing to look at, especially when you're choosing the things that interest you. Studio-wise, that would looking for a studio would probably be the best reference of like what games they generally make. They'll give you an idea of like sort of games you probably will be working on, even though it's obviously it's never going to be 100%. You're never going to work on the last game that they've brought out, but you have an idea of what it's going to be. Obviously, those vary on company to company. Obviously, it'll be like AAA and big teams, or it's working with a little team, and those will have all like a different vibe and like a different way that they work. Again, going off what was said with the different tech art team setups, the studios obviously will reflect that and what they do. If you do fit the description, that'll essentially be what the things that interest you are, the things that interest you, and the things you can get lost in for hours. Obviously, just look at the actual job descriptions, because what they're putting out there is just what you need to like tick box off, and if what you tick box off also is things you love, then that's for you, isn't it, really? Yeah, and don't be afraid to apply for tech art roles that aren't 100% your thing. A lot of it is learning, and a lot of it is you'll jump in and out of stuff, which is not necessarily on the actual application, because it's very much a you jump in where you're needed type deal, but you'll have obviously an overarching of what your main roles are within the company and within the tech team.
Yeah, definitely. The do you fit the description thing is such a huge thing. We quite often get applicants which just aren't right for tech art, and that's because they haven't understood the role. So be thorough when you're reading job descriptions, and if there's anything you're unsure about, contact the recruiter for clarification, or get on LinkedIn and connect with these people and just ask for that clarification. Anybody else?
No.
Got any points? Okie dokie. We'll move on then. So I'm going to talk about the soft skills side of things. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the technical side of things, because that is very important for a technical artist. But the soft skills is something that is often overlooked and is just as important. So your ability to communicate is super important, because we need to know that you can deal with your team, that you can raise problems, that you can find solutions by communicating with others. Asking questions is a huge thing. So generally, when you're in an interview, we want to see this kind of stuff coming through to the best of your ability. So asking questions is the easiest way to show that. ask us things. If you don't know something, just say, you know, I'm not sure, is it this? Or just, you know, I'm sorry, could you explain that to me? And ask us stuff. Because part of being a tech art is, you know, as the others have explained, is a lot about asking questions and probing and wondering, why does that work that way? How can we make that better? So by showing us that you're happy to ask questions, it shows us that you've got that mindset. Being organized is a huge thing for tech art. You know, as we've explained, we cover a lot of things. Even when you're specialized, you're still helping out with other team members and other cells and things, and keeping yourself organized is a huge part of that. You know, being efficient with your JIRAs, being on top of your emails, keeping in touch with your producer and all of this. And writing skills. It might not seem that obvious when you're applying for a game dev job, but documentation is a huge part of the job. If you don't document how you did a thing, that's only in your head, and then nobody else knows. And if you leave, nobody knows how to do it. Or if someone gets onboarded and has to help you out, they've got no way of knowing how to do that thing. So yeah, your writing skills are hugely important with that. So, I mean, I can obviously appreciate when you're in an interview, it is a slightly stressful situation. And so me sitting here going, communicate soft skills is probably a little bit intimidating too. You know, we don't expect you to sit down and be the chattiest person on the planet and just, you know, stream of conversation. We appreciate that's not for everybody. But there are little bits you can do to kind of show that communication. To be honest, you can do that even before you've got the interview. But with your cover letter, you know, the way that you structure that, the way you communicate through that is a good indication to us that you've understood what's expected of you. But just within the interview, ask us questions. We love to be asked questions. And don't worry if you stumble. You know, we don't expect you, as we said earlier, we are Google masters. We don't expect you to have all the answers straight away. We fully appreciate in a work environment, you'll have access to the resources to find those answers. An interview is about gauging where you're at, so that when you start, we can go, we're going to point you towards these resources to get you up to scratch. And we don't want to point you towards things you already know. What else? Have I missed anything? I feel like I rambled a lot. Kristen's laughing at me.
I had also muted myself. No, yeah, I don't think you rambled a lot at all. Yeah. No, I definitely agree. You know, you do have to, you know, you do have to do all of these things, and it's important. But yeah, soft skills are great.
They are, and the, you know, technical processes we can teach you. Some will learn faster than others, but the soft skills side of things is very much an experience.
Yeah.
You know, which if you've had, you know, if you're a graduate applying for your first role, if you've had other roles, other jobs that are completely disconnected to the games industry, if they've got anything that show your soft skills, use it. Yeah. You know, if you've worked in a cafe and you've worked with people, explain that. Explain how you communicate with people. Explain when you've encountered problems and you've had to work together with your team to overcome it. You know, all of that stuff is relevant. We don't just want to hear about that shader you've made or that rig you've done, although we love to see that. Although as a quick note, because we haven't really done anything about portfolios in this, and I won't go on about it too long. If you are interested in technical art, please put your technical stuff on your portfolio. We want to see your rigs. We want to see your wireframes. We want to see how you constructed that shader. We want to see the code behind that script. We can understand if you don't want to give away all of your code, you know, that's totally fair, but just snippets, bits to show key points, the understanding, so we understand that you understand. Yeah. It's very difficult when we just get a gorgeous 3D art portfolio. We're like, well, that's lovely, but we can't see from that why you want to be a tech artist. You know?
Yeah, and no, so in terms of like technical skill, that is largely what's going to get you that interview, because what can I tell about you from a portfolio? What can I tell about you from your resume itself? Those things you need to show your technical skills and your technical chops, and saying these are my technical skills that can get me that job. And then past that, obviously, the soft skills come into play more when you start to do your cover letters, right? Cover letters are about you and your experience and things like that, and who you are and why you want to be there. And then also, you know, the soft skills are going to come into play, obviously, in the interviewing phase when you get there, you know, because you need to be able to communicate that you've encountered these problems and resolved them, and how you did that, because obviously we're a team, and we want everybody to be happy as a team. So a lot of team fit is very important from your perspective as well as from the company's perspective.
Yeah, and if you're showing on your portfolio, for example, a group project that you've done on the university, it's always good to, you know, write down the things that you finished over there and show like a small breakdown, how you know, get to that point, because just showing us video that looks very great from your game, it is great to see that, right? But if it's group project, we don't know what you've done there. So it's always very good to write down what you've done and show us, you know, walk through how you get to that point.
Yeah. You know, and it's
Absolutely.
pretty much, it's like, it's the be bold is, it's like, be bold with who you are and what you've done, right? We need to know that.
Move on to the next slide. Yeah. The summary. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
So yeah, if you want to cover the be bold side of it, go for it.
Be bold. You know, you ask questions in that interview. The interview is for you too, right? Like, it's not just for us to see. It's a relationship. We want to fit. We want to have a happy relationship. So ask questions, and be honest. Not knowing is fine. That's totally okay. But be honest about it. You know, hey, I don't know this thing or that thing, but these are the things I do know, and this is how I do fit, right? And be honest about that. And that's great, because otherwise, you know, because I know me, I rely upon Joe a lot of times for answers, even though I'm technically his lead. And the same can be said with Alex and Liz, right? Like, I can't know everything. They as individuals can't know everything. And you know, so you have to find what fits in that team and what missing knowledge is there, so that we can help improve as a team, because that's what's important. And communicate who you are. You spend a lot of time with your team. You don't want to get into a team that you feel afraid to talk to, right? Like, so they need to know who you are as a human being. It's important.
Yeah, absolutely. We're gonna, if we quickly sum up the be brave and the be the real you thing, and then we'll have 5 minutes to get through some of these questions, because we've got quite a lot now.
Okay.
Do you want to take the be brave?
Yeah, I will be brave. I will take on be brave. Okay, so don't be afraid to learn new things, because part of this job is research and learn. So you need to be open-minded, and you know, our industry is very fast growing. Everything change. New technologies are coming and going, and you know, you need to stay on top as far as you can. Yeah, so don't be afraid to apply for the job, even if you are not matching perfectly to the job description. That was the one thing that I did wrong when I finished university. I was going through job descriptions, and if something didn't match, like for example shaders, right? It was part of job description. You need to have basic understanding of shaders. I had none, and I didn't apply to that job, but who knows, maybe I could get it if I apply and learn it on the post. And always ask for feedback. Doesn't matter if they reject you, always ask for that feedback. Many places won't even reply to your message, but it's always good to ask for it, because you can improve and learn from it. Don't treat rejection as something bad. Treat it as an opportunity to grow. before I landed my very first job in the industry, I've been rejected by over 100 places, but I never gave up. I was just asking constantly. I had prepared email. Could you please give me your feedback? And I was just sending it over. I suggest doing something similar. With each feedback, I was, fixing my portfolio and trying my best. And I applied for 100 places, maybe 3 of them, send me their feedback back. So definitely be brave and don't give up. That's my advice.
Do you want to be the real you, Joe? Do you want me to?
I can do, yeah. Find what you're passionate about. So again, best way to do that is just do everything and then just pick a handful of things that you just really enjoyed, or you did a project and you were doing a bunch of things and something somebody else did look cool. Just have a go at it. It doesn't matter if you're amazing at it. It doesn't matter if you're a bit rubbish at it. If you enjoy it, you'll learn it and you will get good at it. Be honest with yourself. More of a essentially don't. I'm not 100% sure. Did I say that? Be honest.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of being honest with yourself, I mean, if you're not good at something, do what it takes to improve at it. If that's what you want to do. I knew a woman who was a programmer. She was a really good programmer, but her heart wanted to be an artist. She was not a good artist, right? She started out not a good artist, like, but she worked on it. She worked on it. She discovered that she wanted to be not just an artist, but she wanted to do more like claymation type art. And so she worked on it and now she does claymation, for like Bad Robot. So it's not that you have to be good at the start. It's that you have to accept that you're not that good at it. But if you're passionate about it, learn about it, get feedback, improve, and you can get there. It'll take time. The more your natural aptitude isn't there, the more work you have to put into it, and that's important. But yeah, somebody with lots of natural aptitude who puts no work into it is not going to be as good at the finish line as someone who doesn't have the natural aptitude and just really goes for it. So so basically it's that. Be honest with yourself where your skills are, where you need to learn, and just really work for it.
Let's get through some of these questions. So do any of you have a link to the Tech Art?
I do, and I'm looking for the VFX link as well, because there's a VFX specific group that's very good. So I'm looking for that, and I'm going to send that in the chat as well.
So yeah, so for communities, you can join for tech artists. Kristen's going to put some links in the chat for that one. I think a technical artist would need C++ skills, or is it just about using the tools engines? So the C++ side of it really only comes in depending on what you specifically need to do. Yeah. So for example, for myself, when I'm supporting artists in 3ds Max, I don't really need C++, I'm using MaxScript. If you're into Houdini and all of that side of things, then yeah, we've got a tools team and they all know at least a basic level of C++, because that's more useful. Can we see your portfolio as an example of what a good one looks like? If I had one, I would show you it, but I don't. Do any of you have a good portfolio that we can show as an example? And that's definitely something for the future that we will try and.
I mean, yeah, we'll have to put together that for the future, because that is an excellent point. Thank you.
Yeah,
I will dig out a link to my. It's a bit old at this point, because you find after a while, and then I think if Alex is willing to share her portfolio and website, to be honest, that was really, I was really impressed with her portfolio when I looked at it, and as her basic hiring manager, when I looked at that, I was very impressed with it. So if she can share that would be a good example. Joe, do you happen to have one that's online that you wouldn't mind sharing?
I do.
Yeah.
Cool. So when do internships go live and how do we apply? They normally go live around January, and they will have a link on there for you to apply. So obviously they're closed for this year, I'm afraid. But yeah, keep an eye. LinkedIn is the best way to keep an eye on this stuff. Follow Ubisoft Reflections, Ubisoft Leamington. Don't hesitate to add our recruiters as they post all of this stuff all the time. I reshare it a lot as well, so absolutely add me on LinkedIn if you want. How do you feel about the creative side of things? As an example, tech knowledge, but also having the chance to be creative with it. Joe's probably the best person to ask that because he's been able to play with shaders and VFX. If you don't mind taking that. Being creative, how do you feel about it?
Shaders, there's a lot more sort of freedom, especially if you enjoy just making the shader and just how all those layers and all the different channels merge and what you're going to be using them for. It's more visual based than a lot of the tech stuff. So creative side is you would lean towards the shaders and visual effects for that sort of stuff. Obviously, while you're making those, you get to test out the actual artwork and like you get to make like a test Photoshop doc to test it in. So it's that's I would say more creative leaning.
I'm typing answers. Feel free to look through the. I mean, we are a couple of minutes over, so we might have to go to just answering, typing the answers.
Yeah, if you guys could maybe take one more question verbally, and then I'm going to have to close the session. If that's okay.
Sure.
You'll be able to answer them by texting as well, just so you know.
Yeah, sorry.
Just trying to pick one. God, there's so many.
So how about this?
We'll get through things.
What sources would you recommend to learn the technical art specific skills if we were studying a general computer science degree? So to answer that question, I would say definitely go to the techartists.org and look around there. And a lot of it really does depend upon like what kind of technical artist you want to be at this point. You have to understand, you know, how things are built and things like that. Yeah, if you're on a general computer science degree and you want to be a tech artist, just know that the chances are you're going to get in as a technical artist that is more towards like as a graduate that is tooling specific and a very specific niche there without the understanding of the art side. But it is possible, definitely. Thank you.